You know, when you think about the biggest sports on the planet, you probably picture a field or maybe a court, right? Well, what if I told you that one of the fastest growing sports today didn't start in either of those places, but in a university physics lab? This is the wild story of esports, a journey from a tiny hobby for scientists into a global phenomenon that's giving traditional sports a real run for their money. Let's break down how it all went down.
Okay, to get a sense of just how big this has all gotten, just look at this number. $40 million. That was the prize pool for one single tournament. Dota 2 is the international back in 2021. Yeah, this is not just some kids playing in their basements anymore. This is serious, life-changing money. But it definitely wasn't always this way. Not even close.
This right here really puts it all into perspective, doesn't it? The very first recorded video game tournament, back in 1972, gave its champion a one-year subscription to Rolling Stone magazine. Seriously. Now compare that to today, where champions get crowned in sold-out arenas battling for a slice of millions of dollars. So the big question, the one we're here to answer is, how on earth did we get from there to here?
To answer that, we have to rewind. Way back. Back to a time when computers were the size of a room and the idea of competition was born, not for entertainment, but really out of pure scientific curiosity. So let's start with Chapter 1, From Labs to Arcades. So our story really kicks off in what you could call the academic cradle. In 1958, a physicist named William Higginbotham created tennis for two on, get this, an oscilloscope, pretty much just to make a public open house a little more exciting. Then in '62, some students over at MIT built Space War, this cool dogfighting game that started spreading to other universities. This all leads up to 1972, and the first ever tournament, the Intergalactic Space War Olympics at Stanford. The prize might have been small, but the idea of digital competition was officially born. All right, the next giant leap forward happened when gaming finally left the labs and exploded into public arcades. And a key breakthrough came from a simple concept we all take for granted today: the high score. When Space Invaders introduced it in 1978, it was a totally revolutionary idea. For the first time, your victory wasn't just a fleeting moment, it was a permanent mark, your initials on that machine for everyone to see. It was a challenge to every single person who walked in the door. Suddenly, competition wasn't just a live event, it was a 24/7 battle for bragging rights.
And that simple concept lit the fuse for the first esports boom. In 1980, Atari's Space Invaders Championship pulled in over 10,000 people, and it's where Rebecca Heinemann was crowned the first ever national video game champion. To make things feel a bit more official, a guy named Walter Day founded Twin Galaxies in '82 just to verify all these high scores. That directly led to the creation of the first U.S. national video game team a year later. You can see the structure of a real sport starting to form.
So as we roll into the 1990s, we see this huge shift. The goal wasn't just to beat the machine's high score anymore. Thanks to new technology, the goal was now to beat the person sitting across from you. This is Chapter 2, the first pro gamers.
The personal computer and networking just changed everything. Games like Doom and Quake introduced the world to the deathmatch. All of a sudden, players could connect directly and compete in these fast-paced 3D arenas. It wasn't about memorizing patterns anymore. This was about pure, raw skill, your reflexes, and your strategy against another human being.
And with this totally new level of skill came a totally new level of prize. In 1997, the winner of the Red Annihilation Quake tournament didn't just get some cash or a trophy. Nope, they got the personal Ferrari of John Carmack, one of the creators of the game. This prize became an absolute legend, a symbol that being great at a video game could actually lead to some serious rewards. And the man who won that Ferrari was Dennis Thresh Fong. And this quote, well, it says it all. He's considered the first true pro because he did more than just win. He took his incredible skill and turned it into sponsorships and endorsements, proving for the very first time that you could actually build a career out of being a professional gamer. He basically wrote the playbook.
So, with the playbook written, the early 2000s became all about building the house. The scene started getting organized, expanding way beyond just local tournaments and into a truly global industry. Which brings us to Chapter 3, Going Global.
And nowhere on earth did this happen faster or bigger than in South Korea. It was a perfect storm. After a financial crisis, the government there invested a ton of money into high-speed internet. That fueled the rise of PC banks, these internet cafes that became the social hub for young people. And then one game, StarCraft, became a national obsession, a cultural phenomenon. The government even stepped in, creating KSPA to legitimize pro gaming as an official job. It was unlike anything the world had ever seen.
Inspired by that success, all these different organizations started popping up around the world, building their own global leagues, and each one had a slightly different vision. The CPL in America, they wanted to professionalize PC gaming. The World Cyber Games from Korea, they went for an Olympic model where players represented their countries. The ESWC in France took more of a World Cup approach, and MLG in the US was really focused on trying to get esports on television. The global foundation was being laid. But there was still one massive problem. How do you get millions of people to watch? Getting on television was a really tough sell. The solution, and honestly the single biggest catalyst for modern esports, arrived in 2011. And this is Chapter 4. The streaming revolution. In June 2011, a website called Twitch.tv launched, and it was dedicated exclusively to live streaming video games. The impact was immediate and just explosive. By 2014, it was already the fourth largest source of internet traffic in the entire US. For the first time, anyone, anywhere in the world, could broadcast or watch competitive gaming live, no TV network required. It was a total, absolute game changer.
With this huge new global audience came new ways of making money, and you can see it perfectly in the two biggest games of the era. On one hand, you had League of Legends. They went for stability, creating a franchise system like the NFL where teams buy in for the long haul. On the other hand, Dota 2 took a totally different route, using crowdfunding to create that one spectacular, record-breaking prize pool every year. And that's still the core debate in esports economics. Do you want predictable stability or the jaw-dropping spectacle?
And that brings us to today, to the modern era, where the line between esports and traditional sports has pretty much vanished. The question isn't, will esports be big anymore? The real question is, just how big can it possibly get? Which brings us to the final chapter. Esports is now sport.
And you know, a huge part of that future is being driven by mobile gaming. While a lot of people still picture esports as a PC thing, there's a second massive wave of growth happening on phones, especially in places like Southeast Asia, India, and Brazil. For hundreds of millions of new fans, the smartphone is their console. This is where the next billion fans are coming from.
And really, the ultimate proof is right here. The institutions of traditional sport have officially welcomed esports in. After being a demonstration event in 2018, it became a full-on medal sport at the 2022 Asian Games. And get this, in 2025, the International Olympic Committee is hosting the very first Olympic esports games. The journey to legitimacy? It's complete. So, when you look back, we've gone from an oscilloscope in a lab to a magazine subscription, to a Ferrari, to a $40 million prize pool, and now to an Olympic medal. The digital athlete isn't a novelty anymore. They are a permanent fixture of modern sports culture. Which really leaves us with just one question to think about. What game will they play next?